Penguins won today. It's never easy, though. 6-5 over the Rangers. They lost yesterday to the Flames. So they find themselves right now in a tie with Columbus, but Carolina's gaining steam. There's still a lot unknown about where they may end up. Maybe win a division, maybe not. That's now, the Islanders to lose, but they have opportunities to move up and also down. So we're a week out from the trade deadline. So Josh, Yohe, Jim Rutherford, is he itchy? Is he going to scratch the itch? Where is he right now when it comes to more trades?
Oh, by the way, happy birthday to Jim, the big 7-0. And one of our favorite people, we can attest, Jason and I especially, who deal with him. He'll do something because it's Jim Rutherford, and I don't think he can help himself at the trade deadline. So I think he'll make a move. However, I'm starting to wonder if maybe he shouldn't cool it a little bit. He's made a lot of trades. There's been a lot of player movement in the last few months. I think Mike Sullivan and this team need a chance to get to know each other, to figure out who has chemistry, who doesn't, to let people figure out their roles. So I think he'll add a forward probably, if I had to guess. I don't know that it will be a blockbuster deal. I think he needs to figure out just who his team is, and if you keep trading over and over and over again, that can be counterproductive.
I think that's exactly what you just said, Josh, is what I've been saying actually for the last couple of weeks, is this team needs like a 15 or 18 game stretch where they just play together and everybody seems to have a role and everybody knows what their role is. I think it changes so often. I don't know how anybody on this team could know what they're supposed to do except for maybe Crosby. And so, if they make another trade, I would hope it's just of the minor variety and not another, let's bring somebody in that we're going to put into one of our, top 2 or 3 lines, and therefore we've got to shuffle everything around again because, they're running out of games to get to know each other.
Yeah, and I'm not even, if they would make a trade, I'm not even sure it would be somebody to address the NHL roster. I mean, it could be on the fringes. They could add a depth defenseman, something like that, just in case somebody gets hurt, or maybe a forward, maybe a 12-13 kind of guy. But I also look at someone like Tanner Pearson, who spent the past 2 games as a healthy scratch. He's on the books for quite a bit of money over the next, 2 years or whatever it is. If you have an opportunity to maybe move on from him, I think you can fill that hole in other ways. I mean, maybe the trade that Jim Rutherford makes is sending somebody out. Maybe for once the Penguins actually acquire a pick or a prospect or something like that and get a little bit of cap space, repurpose some of that elsewhere, but also think about the future.
One thing we saw this weekend was Evgeny Malkin. If the Penguins go on and have success in the postseason, they may want to circle this weekend. 4 goals. After that suspension, he seemed just really hell-bent on coming out and saying, I'm back, and he is back. So, Paul, let's talk about that. The next guy's got to get going are Hornqvist and Kessel. What do you think is best for them as it relates to this team?
Well, I mean, as tough as it is to imagine, I would just say with Phil Kessel, you got to ride it out. He just seems to be a guy that's a little bit of a goofball like this, where at times he sort of checks out and just you got to kind of figure out. I don't know that actually the way that they've gone about it by sort of demoting him some and taking him off the first power play unit and some of the stuff they're doing, I don't know that that's the right way to handle him, just because he is a little bit of a different guy. I'm not sure what you do with him, but to me, you've got to get him going at some point. He's been too good in the playoffs the last few years to not have him going. I think that's a big question. But if it were me, I would just try and ride it out and see that, if he just snaps back when the stretch comes.
Yep.
Go ahead, Josh.
Malkin and Kessel are not easy players to coach. They march to the beat of their own drum. And I know Mike Sullivan loves to have Kessel on the third line. He loves Crosby, Malkin, and Kessel split up for depth purposes. I understand that. But given the construction of this team, I think it's best to leave Malkin and Kessel together. They look pretty good today.
Thank you. I've been saying that for a
while. let them figure it out. Hornqvist is just as big of a problem, however. He's gone, I think, 12 games now without a point. That's the longest stretch of his career, and it just so happens to coincide with when he came back from a concussion pretty quickly, I might add. I'm not a doctor. I know the Penguins have good doctors, but boy, you can't ignore it. The guy has not looked right since the concussion. I think it's his 5th in 5 years. They rushed him out west. He played in the last game in Vegas before their big break. That looks a little questionable right now.
One of the things, we talk about Malkin being so good with Kessel, and I agree with you guys. I'd be playing them together as well. In the playoffs, this time of year, maybe we're jumping the shark a little bit, but Sidney Crosby and Patrick Hornqvist have been really good together. I would like to see what those two did, and that's not a criticism of Brian Rust or saying he's been ineffective there. He's been great. Brian Rust has been absolutely tremendous, but you need to find a way to get 72 going, and I think the best option for doing that, if you're going to keep Kessel with Malkin, which again, I think they should do, is to try to get Hornquist going with Crosby. That probably puts Brian Rust in a third line role with maybe Nick Bukestad, Jared McCann. I'm fine with that, but they need to do something to get Patrick Hornquist going. Him going 12 games without a point, it's just not sustainable. He's too big of a part of this team.
Yeah, it was good today to see that Mike Sullivan made a switch and brought Zach Aston-Reese from the fourth to the second line and made an impact on that game. Who knows if they all stay together and what that does to the fourth line. We have more hockey talk coming up, including I'll ask these guys about the goaltending depth, and given Matt Murray's propensity for being injured, should they consider something of that nature. But first, ladies and gentlemen, it's a popular segment. It's time as we go round the horn for this week's Smooth Moves, brought to you by Pittsburgh's largest supplier of the smoothest granite, marble, and quartz countertops anywhere, Armina Stone. All right, so start with you, Paul, at the top and go right down. Your Smooth Move of the week is what?
Well, I'm going to go to the wonderful confines of the Alliance of American Football because those of us who are big-time college football fans in the 80s and 90s got to fall in love with the old ball coach. And the old ball coach, Steve Spurrier, head coach of the Orlando Apollos, they are now 2-0 and in first place. So I'm going with the old ball coach, Steve Spurrier.
Well done. My smooth move will go to Mike Sullivan. I know Jack Johnson is everyone's whipping boy, especially on Twitter. I know he hasn't had a great year. He's been pretty good in his last 3 games, and I'll tell you why. He's been on the left side, which is his natural side. He needs to stay there. He's not a great player. He's a heck of a lot better on that side than he is the right, and I think the Penguins are realizing that.
I'm sticking with the hockey talk. Last night, Don Cherry was on Hockey Night in Canada. Are they just ripping the Carolina Hurricanes, calling them a bunch of jerks and whatever else? Don Cherry, you're an idiot. Over the week goes to the Carolina Hurricanes for whatever celebration they want to do. What a cool city. What a cool team. I love the concept. They're not showing up their opponents, so shut up and let them have fun, please.
There you go. I echo that. Why not? It's at the end of the game. Who cares? They're trying to entertain the fans, and it's something different that you see in the NHL. I agree with that. Those are the Smooth Moves brought to you by Armina Stone. It is Pittsburgh's largest indoor stone gallery of granite and marble countertops imported from all over the world to give you the smoothest countertops in the area. Score a touchdown right now with new graphite countertops. Or I'm sorry, not graphite. That would be in your golf club. Granite. You don't want graphite. Take granite from Armina Stone. When we come back, more hockey right here on KDKA.